All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Steve Taft. I'm captain of the Legend.
And I'm Alex Palumbo. I'm a deckhand on the Legend.
Today we're going to be going over some jigging, specifically for bluefin out of San Diego. Knife jigs, SK jigs, slow pitch, fast pitch, kind of that sort of stuff. I know when I'm out fishing, I just stick to a normal knife jig on a rail rod. I guess I don't enjoy the finer qualities of jigging like Alex does, who is more of your just finesse style jig fishing. He has multiple lures for different conditions. So Alex is going to kind of go over some of the different things that we use that have seen a lot of success here out of San Diego lately.
First and foremost, this is your speed jigging style of rod. You're looking at a 5 to 6 foot parabolic
very
style,
thin, wimpy looking rod.
Yeah, it doesn't look like something you'd generally be using to fish for 100 to 300 pound tuna.
Right, not much backbone on it compared to those rail rods.
No, and definitely one of those things where your true rail rod, your 2x4, 3x4 unlimited style rail rod, at the end of the day is going to be more beneficial to killing those big fish.
Right.
But what I think you're looking for when you're doing it is you're looking for the bite itself. It's the draw of getting bit as you're pumping on that jig, and then also it's you're fighting the fish a lot more with yourself. So you're trying to pull as hard as you possibly can.
And another reason for this design is more active fishing for this slow pitch than it is like your normal knife jig where you're just dropping down. Like you're bouncing a lot. Like if you see guys at the rail, like with this lure in the water, bounce wind, bounce wind, bounce wind. So this is a lighter rod, which is why it's so thin. And that's also why you have this acid wrap where you can see the guides start rotating. So this first guide right now is facing me, and then once you get to the fourth guide, you see it's facing straight towards you guys in the camera. And it's designed like that, so if you bounce and your slack line lands on your guides, it'll slide off and fall off so it doesn't get caught and mess up your rod.
100%. It's one of those things where as you're jigging it up and down, I mean, you're wanting to put a little bit of slack in that line. You're using the jig as weight as you're pulling up. That rod is flexing, and the rod tip's going to bounce. It's going to pop up, and that's a lot of what's giving that jig its wide bounce back and forth.
And that action underwater, right? Because you're bouncing it, and that's a quick movement, and then it's like fluttering, right? And bounce, flutter as you wind. And you're slowly going up and you're covering like that whole depth range that we're calling out when we say the fish are at 200 to 300, 300 to 400 feet, whatever that is. Another difference is your reel you're using. That's a single speed reel.
Yes.
I would never use a single speed reel. I mean, I use my heavy rail rods, and I use a 2-speed reel, and I just want to put it in low gear and wind. But specifically for slow pitch jigging, you want to use a single speed, a quick reel, right?
So you're using a slower speed reel, but you're using the torque on the reel as opposed to like your 2-speed. So you're kind of always, this is a 5-gear ratio. Saltiga 55 JP just came out earlier or late last year, but absolutely amazing. But it's a slower gear ratio. So it's one of those things where it allows you to pump that jig up and down, picking up that slack, but you don't want to compensate too much for picking up too much slack, because then you're not letting that jig.
It doesn't have enough play.
No, yeah. The whole point is.
And you fish these really heavy with a lot of drag, right?
Oh yes, I mean as locked down as you can possibly go until that free spool starts to no longer free spool.
What I see, like especially East Coast, this is more of an East Coast style fishing, I would say, than how we do it on the West Coast. But like these guys are kind of pointing their tip and just trying to grind the fish in, which in theory is great, but our bluefin don't really cooperate with that quite as well.
No.
So it's hard to straight wind them to the boat like you see in some of those East Coast slow pitch fishing videos where they're fishing like a reef or something for like a snapper or something like that. These bluefin fight a lot harder. So I mean, if you're fishing something like this, you really love the bite, you love the action, and doing something different, right?
Yes.
Because it's a harder fight. So it's more rewarding, I would say, because you really earned it. Like you're not using the rail or a low speed like I'm going to be using.
In 100%. And that's one of those things where, I mean, rail rods, they're built and have been designed over the last years to accommodate our specific type of fishing. This is relatively new, East Coast and overseas, and you are looking for that fight. just a little bit more finesse.
Right.
It's taking something that's already good and just adding an extra element.
I will say
onto it.
I like it for daytime fishing when it's a tough bite sometimes. If you're willing to work at it, I've seen guys have a lot of success with stuff like this. Not even just at night, which is primarily where we're using our knife jigs and stuff, but during daytime when it's a tougher bite, when guys are struggling to get bit on a sinker rig, that'll sometimes work very well. Okay, so now we're going to go over some of the different lures and the intricacies about them and how you use them. This is like a flat fall style jig.
Yeah.
These were the first big thing for nighttime fishing. The Shimano flat falls, the chartreuse color with the big one, right? These don't fall quite as fast because they have a lot of action, right? And they flutter a lot. So when fish are higher in the column at night, like 200 feet, something like that, I think that this is a good lure that works very, very well.
These still catch fish. They have a time and place, just like every jig in this lineup. Really, I mean, one of the hottest jigs on the market when it first
SK
came out
jig.
that you transitioned from that flat fall was the SK, and that's your your hybrid style of jig. This is a West Coast Jiggers. This is a 500 gram, a Daiwa SK. I mean, for a period of, for a year or two,
everyone
you
had
couldn't
to have
find
an
them
SK.
anywhere. It was, I mean, and the benefit of it is you still get the fall and a little bit of the flutter.
A little bit quicker fall.
Yeah, but you're getting a sinker. You can get to those depths
and then
of 3 to 500.
They upgraded it with this one,
Yep.
you know, I mean, a little bit sleeker of a design to cut through the water, where this one has play.
Yeah. Still that same kind of, it's gonna sink, and you're gonna feel as that thing is fluttering through the water column. There's gonna be no question when you're changing directions and getting down.
And both those lures are kind of in between the flat fall and a traditional knife.
Yes.
Like as we get towards this way, this is more of a traditional like knife style. Like I always imagine it shaped like a butter knife, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To cut through the water and get down there quicker. So what lure is this one right here, Alex?
This is the West Coast Jiggers KB. This is hands down my night in, night out. I mean,
your favorite lure,
this
right?
is almost darn near almost exclusively at this point. I mean, between changing colors and sizes, I'll fish that thing day, night, anywhere.
I've seen you have a lot of success with these. Yeah,
I think you can fish up to 300 gram in the day. During the daytime, I tend to go with a little bit lighter jigs, something like this Nature Boy. I don't tend to like too much glow in the middle of the daytime, but similar style jigs, kind of that true knife style,
and they get through the water column quicker. That's what that's designed to do.
Yes, you want to be in that zone, and you want to fish
versus
as
like the
as
wide
possible.
lure, like the flat fall is a little slower.
Yes,
the SK is like the in between of that, and then you have your more true knife jig style. Now these are like only up to 300 gram, like you're saying. So if you're drifting real quick, you're gonna need to go up maybe.
And that's where, luckily, West Coast Jiggers. So this will be your West Coast Jiggers KB. And then this is going to be your Nature Boy Swim Rider. Between the Swim Rider and the Wiggle Rider are kind of my two go-tos in the Nature Boy lineup. And then also, they make them in all the different sizes. So whether you need to go from...
That's a 500 gram right there.
Yeah, this one's a 500 gram.
So that's when you got a lot of wind and current and you're drifting real quick. Or if you have a lot, you go with something like this, which is designed to have almost no play, right? So yeah, this one is designed, like you said, the eddy bomb, just to get through that water column when you have conditions that aren't that conducive to a slower lure, to get down there as deep and as quickly as possible. That's kind of the lures. Now, going back to slow pitch, did you want to do a little tutorial on like how you like to bounce and do that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to roll with a 3-rod lineup, medium light. I fish it on a Saltiga 35 single speed, 65 pound, whatever your favorite braid is, Sunline, Max Quattro, etc. 640 to 60 pound fluorocarbon. I haven't felt a necessary need to drop down any lower than that, but this will be the rod that I use for your smaller grade daytime fish, smaller grade even nighttime fish if you really want to pull on something, and your more true slow pitch rod. For rockfish, yellowtail, etc.
If I'm captaining the boat, I'm going to suggest only for daytime smaller fish, something that's this light.
Yes, that's
it's going to take a little while to fight.
Yeah,
but Alex is going to drop in the water here, and he's going to show you kind of his retrieve pattern, how he gets good action on it. We don't have too much depth here in the bay, so it's not going to be too long of a tutorial.
No, but an important thing, guys. Can't tell you how important it is to know where you are in the depth zone. If the captain says that he's marking fish at 150, 200, 500, wherever the case happens to be, mark your lines.
Yeah.
Buy the metered line. If you don't have it, just know that you need to sink further than you think you're sinking.
Yeah.
So you're generally retrieves for your slow pitch. Slow pitch and speed jigging, it's basically the same form of technique, but you're more or less referring to how quickly you're imparting action on that jig. So let's just say with your flat fall style jigs or your rock fishing, a lot of the times, you know, you're lifting up and you're letting that rod bounce. So as you go, you see that rod bend, and then as it gets to the top, it snaps up. And when that rod snaps up, that's when it's imparting that action on the jig. So when you're on your slow pitch, constant slow up and down, and you're just kind of working that zone that you're wanting to fish, whether you're just off the bottom or whether you're, you know, halfway up the water column. Your speed jigging is going to be a little bit more of an aggressive technique. You're going to be pumping your arms a lot quicker, but it's timing. You want that slack.
And you're constantly widening.
Yes.
With the speed jigging too. So it's like pump, wind is your rhythm, right?
Yes. My cadence is basically for every pump that I do, I turn the handle.
Okay.
And it takes you go out there and you just got to fish it for, you know, an hour just to kind of figure out. This is going to feel weird. You're going to think you're just doing like this. You're like, oh, okay, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's all rhythm. Once you get that rhythm.
And feel your jig. You can feel, you know, as you get more in tune with your setups and how you're fishing, you'll be able to feel your jig blow out. And you're wanting to have that jig go, but have enough slack in your line so that it can actually flutter and dart out to its maximum capacity. And then you're turning that handle down, turning that handle up and down. But your speed jigging will be a lot more aggressive. And this one's going to be speed jigging. So it's not the best scenario because I don't really have a whole lot of pumps, but as you can kind of see, you're bouncing up and down and you're keeping that rhythm going.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be too much slack to where your jig's starting to pull you back down, but you're wanting to put slack in that line, pick up that little bit of slack and be able to bounce it.
Now, when you're doing something like that, you're probably going to cover, what, 100, 150 feet of the water column,
yeah,
speed jigging, and then drop back down and rinse and repeat until you scope out too far, and then you want to wind up and reset. This has been a good intro to speed jigging and slow pitch jigging. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions on lures, how to use them, setup, anything like that, drop a question in the comments, and we can do that in a future video. Thank you guys once again very much for tuning in, and we'll see you out on the water soon.